Welcome, tennis fans, to the 28th episode of Tennis Traverse, Exploring the Game, the podcast that delves into the heart of the tennis world. I'm your host, Ivy J, and in today's episode, I'll be talking about the Dubai Open, the Chile Open, and the San Diego Open, as well as giving my opinion on the Rublev's default and predicting Indian Wells. So before I begin, please follow all of my social medias, Instagram, Twitter, using @TennisTraverse, that is @TennisTraverse. And I do want to say that I'm not really active on there. Sorry that I'm not really active on social medias. I will try my best, I promise, when there's like important tournaments, such as the Indian Wells and Miami Open coming up, and when there's Grand Slams. And if you're listening on YouTube, comment, like, and subscribe. If you're listening on other streaming platforms, please rate my show. It really means a lot. And yeah, I also want to say that I really do have some super exciting guests that's coming up. Someone I've been looking up to, and someone that I just admire for a long time. And he's coming to my podcast. And I'm just so excited for you guys to listen to it. And I'm just honestly so excited to meet him in general. And to be honest, I feel like this podcast is my place for me to just honestly talk about everything related to tennis. And I really don't get that because I'm a student. It's not my job, but I'm just really grateful that I have an audience and anyone that wants to sort of listen to me blabber about tennis. So yeah, again, thank you so much. And yeah, we'll get right into today's episode. So, okay, we have a lot to talk about, and we'll start with San Diego first because honestly, it's the least dramatic one. There's less drama in it. So, one thing I want to point out is Caroline Wozniacki. So, she had an amazing run I think it was last season in US Open because obviously she claimed to be retired, and then after giving birth, she came back. So, she had a amazing run. So she went to round 16 and she managed to beat Kvitova on the way as well as Jennifer Brady. But in round 16, she lost in a 3-set match to Kostyuk, who was ultimately the champion of US Open. So it was an amazing run. However, this year, it hasn't been so smooth. So in the first tournament of the year, she lost Elena Svitolina, which I believe was a highly anticipated matchup. And then in Australian Open, she lost to Maria Timofeeva, and it was a 3-set loss, and it was in round 2 of the Open. And then in San Diego, she also suffered a tough loss against Blinkova. I mean, Anna Blinkova is a really steady player, so we can't take any credits away from her. But I feel like from what she showed last year at the US Open, our expectations was sort of in a way higher, and she just hasn't been living up to that. But I think there's still so much more of her, and it's literally just the start of the season. And she's also one of the players I look forward to during the Sunshine Doubles, which is the Indian Wells and Miami. I want to see how she does in those two tournaments. Okay, let's move on. So Jessica Pegula has been doing really well. So Pegula ultimately went to the final of San Diego, and in a semifinal of the San Diego, and her opponent is Marta Kostyuk. So both of those players, in my opinion, are doing really well. Well, they haven't been okay, let's talk about Pegula first. I feel like she hasn't been doing that well since the start of the year. So she withdrew from the Adelaide, which is her first tournament. And then in Australian Open, she only made it to round 2, and she suffered a loss against Clara Burel, which in my opinion was sort of unexpected. But in San Diego, she seems to be finding her form again. And when I'm recording this, she's currently up a break of 2-0 in the first set. Okay, so we'll now talk about Marta. So in my opinion, Marta did have a really solid start of the season because she made it to the quarterfinal of Adelaide, and then she also made it to the quarterfinal of the Australian Open, which she played an incredibly close match with Kostyuk, and it was actually a close match. She lost a deciding set with a score of 2-6, but the other 2 sets were all tiebreaks. So, because also Kostyuk, I believe, went to the semifinals of Australian Open, so it just shows sort of how in form Marta Kostyuk is. So yeah, those are just two players I found, like Jessica Pegula and Kostyuk. They're doing really well. And then here are just some matchups. I'm not gonna talk much about them because I don't know. I think there's not too much to talk about, but I have the link. Sorry, I have the link down below if you guys want to go check it out. It's just Katie Butler versus Bia Haddad Maya. So Katie Butler, she was doing really good, but we haven't heard from her much. But it was like a tied match, and I believe it was an upset. So if you guys want to go check it out, feel free to check it out. And then the other match is Anastasia Pavlyuchenkova versus Marta Kostyuk. It was also a great match. I literally can't talk, guys. Okay, I have it linked down below if you guys want to go check it out. Okay, now let's move on. This is like the least dramatic one out of every tournament I'm going to talk about today. Okay, so now we'll talk about the Chile Open. So honestly, not that much to talk about. Like, I only chose to talk about this because of the clay. Like, if you have watched Chile Open, it's literally like a 250 tournament. But if you watch it, you'll see how bad the clay is. Like, it's actually horrible. Because even though I'm not active on Twitter, like, I still go on it. And then I was scrolling through my feed, and I saw this video of, like, how bad the bounce was. It's actually horrendous. I mean, like, I get how it's, like, a 250 tournament, but it's, like, not that of a horrible tournament. It's not, like even an ITF tournament shouldn't be like that. Like, the clay condition, oh my gosh. If I can find the video of how bad the clay is on Twitter, I'll link it. But, guys, like, it's actually bad. And, the other thing I want to talk about is Sebastian Baez, who I think is doing really, really well, because in Rio Open, he ultimately won the whole tournament. And his year this year, I feel like hasn't been perfect. Well, hasn't been good. Like, at the very beginning, he lost in round 1 in Brisbane, round 1 in Adelaide. And then he made it to round 3 in Australian Open, where he lost to the tournament winner, Yannick Sinner. But the scores were, like, horrible. He lost 0-6, 1-6, 3-6. So it was kind of sad. But then he started to find his form again in Cordoba Open. He made it to the semifinals, and then in Argentina, which is where he's from, he made it to the quarterfinals, and in Rio, he made it to the finals. So as you guys can see, he's slowly improving, and in Chile, he's playing against Tabilo, who is from Chile. So this will be a really interesting matchup. I don't think the crowd will be on his side, but I think from how he's been performing, I think he can beat Tabilo, I think. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. And then we'll talk about the Dubai Open. Okay, the reason I want to talk about the Dubai Open last is because a lot of great matchups came, and there's like some really controversial issues surrounding it, but I figured to put it last because there's just so much to talk about. It sort of leads me to my next topic, which is Andrei Rublev's default from the Dubai Open. So first, I want to talk about some matchups. As I said before, I have these linked down below. So the first one is Andrei Rublev versus Zhang Zhuzheng. So this was amazing, and I did not expect it to be this close. Even though he has been finding his form, I did not expect there to be a tiebreak, and him winning a tiebreak is unexpected to me. And then Hurkacz versus Jan Lennard Struve. Sorry, I probably butchered the name, but literally there were 3 tiebreaks. They were all super close, and yeah, you guys should go watch it. It was super, super long, and it was really, really close, as you guys can see from the tiebreaks. So yeah, I'll leave it linked too. And then the other one I'll talk about is Hurkacz versus Humbert. So Humbert, ultimately, spoiler alert, he's the champion of this tournament, and to be honest, I think it's well deserved because I did not expect him to win. I did not expect him to be on such a high level, but I feel like his match against Humbert proved that he's capable of winning like 500 tournaments, because like tournaments that's worth 500 points, not like 500 tournaments. But like I feel like when he's playing against Hurkacz, who is someone that's been like consistently performing really well. His ability to win a tiebreak against him just shows how mentally tough he is, especially that the tiebreak score is 10-8. It just, I feel like it shows, and he's like coming back from a set too, so I think it just shows how mentally tough he is, and I feel like he definitely deserved to win. Okay, and then the last matchup I think everyone's like looking forward to is Shapovalov versus Andy Murray. And I want to say that it did not disappoint, and Murray did manage to turn it all over after losing the first set 4-6. And to be honest, I think even Murray said that he's not going to play past, I think, Wimbledon. I'm not sure, don't quote me on that, but I think he's going to retire like pretty soon. And I feel kind of sad because obviously he's one of the best players ever, so that's kind of sad. But this match did not disappoint. I feel like every time we see Andy Murray, what we can expect is someone who literally just never gives up. And I feel like I talked about this like 4 or 5 times on here, but his match against Kokonakis, that was actually insane. At one point where he manages to chase, like, I think you guys know what I'm talking about if you like watch that match, like the one where he's able to chase every smash. Yeah, you all know what I'm talking about. But it was actually insane. I think it was one of the best points of the tournament of the year, of someone who can manages to defend and then to turn the point over is just insane. And yeah, I really love him. Sad that he's going, but I think he really did the sport good. And yeah, I'm just really happy that I get to witness him still playing. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is Medvedev finding his form. So obviously he hasn't been doing horrible. I'm not saying that Medvedev is like horrible, because obviously he's like, he didn't go too bad in Australian Open, but like I feel like everyone in a way, when he first started to like emerge and pop out, everyone expected him to do better. Like I expected him to win a lot more Grand Slams, and I think this year, even though he did make it to the final and he was up 2 sets. Like I think before I would have expected him to just close it out. I did not expect him to lose 3 straight sets to Sinner. But still, I feel like I really appreciate his run. I'm currently looking at the Australian Open run on Google, and I'm looking at it. He only played 1 straight set match, which is against Felix Auger-Aliassime. The other ones are all 4 or 5 setters. That's actually insane. It just shows how how physically tough he is, I guess. And yeah, I think he's been doing really well. And honestly, I feel like he's been improving, like, match by match. So first match he played against Alexander Shevchenko, who is a player I really like, actually. If you guys can like look him up, I think I like his tennis style. He's like sort of new, but I definitely keep an eye on him. And then the other one is, his next matchup is against Lorenzo. Sorry, I can't talk, guys. I'm so sorry. Okay, his next matchup is against Lorenzo Sonego, which is also a really close match. And then he played against ADF, and it was like a straight set win. So I feel like him making it to the semifinals is like sort of him not finding his form, but it's his first tournament back after Australian Open, so I think this is a good run for him. And honestly, when I was looking at Twitter again, when I was scrolling through the feed, I saw someone tweeting about how honest and reflective Medvedev is after his loss. And note that press conferences actually happen just like 5 minutes after you lose or like win. So I think it was actually like, when I was reading it, I think he's actually trying to reflect through press conference, which is something I do not see a lot of players do, and I think it's quite valuable that he does that. I think it's a really great way. I mean, maybe it is, but for me, I feel like it's a really great way for the press conference, something that like a lot of players might not necessarily enjoy, but to use it as a way of reflection, I think it's super valuable. And it's really hard. I think it's really hard to get the opportunity to reflect with other people. I think it's really vulnerable for him to share all his thoughts in front of the people. So really applaud him and admire him for that. And yeah. And I want to talk about the finals now, which honestly did not expect the finals to be Bublik versus Umbert, but like I talked about how I think Umbert is deserving of winning. So is Bublik because actually he's had one of his best runs. Well, he's had one of his best years so far. So even though he lost in the first round of Australian Open, he made it to the first semifinal of the Adelaide, and then he made it to the final of the Open Stade de France. He also made it to the round of 16, which is not that good, but still. But he lost against Raonic in ATP Rotterdam, and then I feel like his runs has just been sort of solid. It's not been like horrible. It's not been amazing. Well, except for the final, but like I feel like he's just consistently there, and I'm really happy for his run this year because he beat some incredible players along the way, such as Greek Spore. Even though he lost to Umbert in the final, I think it was a great match. Okay, so we'll talk about Rublev's default because we're here, and I think it's something that is worth talking about. Okay. So, I'm gonna give you guys context, but I do want to mention, just as a disclaimer, everything should be taken with a grain of salt. I'm no expert. A matter of fact, I wasn't even watching this when it's actually happening. All my information sources are from Twitter. I'll leave the links if I can find them of stuff I mentioned. So just note that a lot of stuff are just personal opinions and stuff I saw from Twitter, so not true. Okay. So what happened was Rublev was playing in the semifinal against Alexander Bublik, and then the ball, they were like rallying a point, and then it was out. Like reportedly, Bublik hit a ball out on under Rublev's side, but the judge just didn't call it, and they started playing. Like continue playing, but Rublev lost that point. So Rublev was furious and he yelled in the face of one of the line judges, and automatically he was default because of how sort of like just intimidating he was, and some of the sources claim he used profanity, but I'll address that later. So before I talk about do I think Rublev is at fault or not, I want to talk about the necessity of the electronic line call. So obviously, I think everyone knows how important this is because with the electric line call system, there will be no line judges, and like he won't be taking out his anger on anyone, maybe except for his racket, but at least that's like an object instead of a person. He could take it out to the chair umpire, but that's like, okay, in my opinion, he has to walk all the way up to the chair umpire and yell at him, and because like it doesn't really do anything, because I don't think he will be as furious because the electronic line call is like right, they can't be wrong because it's like a robot. So I just think this is super important. I get how a lot of tournaments just doesn't have the sort of the economic, like they can't afford it. I think it's mandatory in 500s, at least 500s. I think 250 should have it too, but I think 500s must have it because it's a significant amount of points, and I think electronic line judge won't just make these situations like completely non-existent. I think it will just make the games fairer overall. I get a lot of people are sort of talking about how it kind of takes away the challenge part of it, how like you engage the audience of clapping about it, like clapping and then finding out if the challenge was right or wrong. I get that aspect, but I think the fairness of the game is more important. And tell me if you guys want me to like sort of make an episode or write an article about electronic line call, especially after what happened. I think it's something that really needs addressing and justifying how important it is, just because of situations like these could happen. Okay, moving on. I want to talk about VAR. So VAR is basically video review, and I think before I did not think about tennis having VAR, but now after this, and I saw it on my Twitter, I was like, okay, I think it's worth considering. Because, okay, for me, the electronic line judge is like absolutely a requirement, but the VAR is something worth considering because if you are thinking about it this way, a lot of the conflicts that has happened, you can use video review. If the players had an outburst on court against like one of the people that are like refereeing the sport, I think looking at how they reacted, what they say in slow motion, I think even though it's not like soccer or like basketball where you look at it like it's a foul or not, like stuff like that. But like I think listening to what they said and then sort of processing it and making a decision is better than just like what they did here, like making a decision on the spot. I think that's just, even though they did get like Russian speaking officials to sort of like assist them, I think VAR will help it immediately because it's not like, I get it. Like as I said, it's not like basketball and soccer. It's like a foul, and it probably will cost a lot more money because it literally has to be monitoring both players at all times. But still, I think it should definitely be thought about, maybe in Grand Slams, because I think Grand Slams mean so much in the players. But like as I said, I keep on like trying to prove myself wrong, but I think it just depends on the tournament, honestly, because I saw somewhere that like if this has happened in Wimbledon, Rublev just would not have done that because everyone knows that you should be on your best behavior in Wimbledon. It's just something that's drilled into their minds. So I think, but I still think it's important to have this VAR because video review, thinking about it now, a lot of umpires are just making decisions on the spot. I think it's super important for them to look back on a footage to decide because when you're deciding after a player literally just yelled at you, I think you like, I know umpires are trying to be fair, but like you will have like an emotional reaction towards it. So I think that's something that should be considered. Okay. Now we'll move on to if I think it's acceptable, like what I think about the whole Rublev situation. I think no, it's not acceptable at all, but I think there has been a lot of instances where there are situations that are worse than this and players probably just got like a point or a game or like a warning. And in case you guys don't know how the system works, it's sort of like the umpire will first give you a warning, which is just like a warning, it's like first strike, and then the second strike you get a point off. So the other player starts with like love 15, and then the next you get you get a game off. So like for example, the game scores is like 2-all, so you automatically it's like 2-3, and then it's a default, so you completely lose the match, and I think all of your prize money also gets taken away, which is what happened to Rublev. So I think honestly there has been there's so much more stuff and examples that are much worse than this. Like honestly, I can think of a lot, and I'm not justifying his actions. His actions are not acceptable. You shouldn't be yelling at anyone like that. And especially I feel bad for the for the line judge, because he shouldn't face that situation when he's like working. It's unsafe for him. But still, the example I want to talk about is Arthur Fils. So of course he played in Chile Open, and I honestly just like when I was watching it, I saw somewhere that he was like saying profanity, like actual profanity to the tournament officials, and he just got a warning, I think, or like a point. It's like, I think that's much worse because I've seen from a lot of videos that Rublev didn't actually curse. He was just like expressing his frustration, but still, like I think it's just Arthur Field's situation is more sort of severe than what Rublev said. However, the treatment to both of these instances are really different. So I think it's super important for tennis to have like a rule book. Well, they have a rule book, but I want them to like sort of set the standard. Like if you say this, you'll like get default a point or like something like that, you know? So it's not like everyone don't know what's right or wrong, because if you say profanity, you can literally just like get, I don't know, like a point off. But if you yell at someone's face without profanity, you can get a default. So we don't know what's like what. I feel like it's really hard for the players to know. I get how it's all like expressions of anger, but I think it's just really hard for the players to know what they do like and what like the consequences will be. So I think that's something that's worth considering. Okay, this is a bit long. I'm so sorry. It's been like 25 minutes and I still have one more topic. But I'll go through this topic really, really fast. Now let's move on to a lighthearted topic, which is Indian Wells. So really, really excited for this. I just want to mention some players I want to look out for. So this is going to be fast. So Nadal and Djokovic, obviously, because they haven't been here. And Nadal is coming with an injury after withdrawing from Australian Open. And this is notably one of his biggest tournaments after coming back. Novak Djokovic, he hasn't been here because of vaccine, so also him. And then Alcaraz, because obviously he twisted his ankle, he didn't have the best start of the year, so I think this will be an interesting tournament for him. I'll see how he does, especially after that Netflix slam. I'll see how he does. And then Hubert Hurkacz, so he's been doing really well this year. He had a considerably good run. Sorry, I can't talk. He had a considerably good run to the Australian Open, where he made it to the quarterfinals. And in Open 13, he made it to the semifinals. And I think he's just some player that could surprise us. And then Casper Ruud. I didn't mention this, but there's another tournament that's going on, which is the Mexican Open. And that's a 500 event. He was in the 250 finals in Los Cabos last week, and then this week he made it to the final of Mexican Open. So just 2 back-to-back finals, and I think he's truly been playing so much better he is this year compared to last year. So definitely look out for him, even though he's not known for his Indian Wells results, but still. Just like, because he's my favorite. So like, yeah, okay. And then girls. So for the WTA side, I want to mention Naomi Osaka. Obviously, she's coming back. She's my favorite. I really love her. Not that much to say, but she's won in UL. She's been booted in UL. So there's just so much stuff going on there. So I think it'll be a really interesting tournament. Venus Williams, not like the wild card situation. It was sort of like, I don't want to address it because I feel like I'll make this episode super duper long. I don't want to make it that long, but what happened was like Venus got a wild card. A lot of people are complaining that she shouldn't get a wild card because it's sort of limiting from like the players who actually will get past the first few rounds, because Venus, of course, of how old she is and how she hasn't been performing good. So they sort of like disagreed with the decision. So I kind of want her to prove them all wrong, even though I know it's sort of like a delusion, but still. Okay, Iga Swiatek, obviously, she won in, she won in Qatar. She didn't win in Dubai. She lost in 2 straight sets, but still, I think, because she won, I believe it was last season, Miami and Indian Wells, like both of them, so I think this will be an interesting run. Last topic, which is the players I think will surprise us are the Dubai Open finalists, which is Paolini and Kalinskaya. So Paolini, I think she will surprise us. I'm not sure if she's going to be able to maintain her level, because I think after winning a WTA 1000 tournament, the pressure on you was insane. I don't know if she's able to sort of maintain that. Kalinskaya, obviously, she didn't win Dubai, but she played amazing. She beat Iga. So I think it'll be really interesting, and I think the pressure is sort of less on her compared to Paolini, so I think she might surprise us a bit more. So yeah, okay, this wraps up today's episode. This is a long one. I honestly am so excited. There's so much stuff going on, some stuff that's pretty serious, and others that are just like good tennis actions. And guys, I literally can't wait for, maybe I'll post it next week, I don't know, but my surprise guest episode will come up soon. I'm recording it next week with my guest, and I think it will be amazing. I think you guys will love it. I will love it. I'm literally looking forward to it every day. I wake up thinking about it. I know it's a bit weird, but yeah, I think that's all. thank you so much for listening. Again, I have all the links down below if you guys want to go check it out. And please subscribe to YouTube, comment, like, subscribe. Please follow all of my social medias, Instagram and Twitter using @tennistraverse. Rate my show if you're listening on podcast streaming platforms. And honestly, if you guys want to just reach out, like text me, DM me, or like reach out to me via Twitter, Instagram, or like email me with my Linktree email, please do so. I'll love to, like, I don't know, maybe collab with you guys. So yeah, I'll see you guys next week. Bye.